From many boats dotted on the surface of the lake came voices of people lamenting their lost town and their first complaints and anger against the master who had left the town so soon, while some were still willing to defend it. He may have had a good head for business, especially his own, but he's no good when anything serious happens. And they praised the courage of Bard and his last mighty shot. If only he had not been killed, they all said, we would make him a king. Bard, the dragon shooter of the line of Girion. Alas that he is lost. In the very midst of their talk, a tall figure stepped from the shadows. He was drenched with water. His black hair hung wet over his face and shoulders, and a fierce light was in his eyes. Bard is not lost. I am Bard of the line of Girion. I am the slayer of the dragon. King Bard! King Bard! They shouted, and the master ground his chattering teeth. Girion was Lord of Dale, not King of Esgaroth. In the lake town, we have always elected masters from among the old and wise, and have not endured the rule of mere fighting men. Let King Bard go back to his own kingdom. Dale is now freed by his valor, and nothing hinders his return. We will have King Bard, the people near at hand shouted in reply. We have had enough of the old men and the money counters. People further off took up the cry. Up the bowmen and down the money bags. I am the last man to undervalue Bard the bowman. He has tonight earned an eminent place in the history of our town, and he is worthy of many imperishable songs. But why, O people, why do I get all the blame? Who aroused the dragon from his slumber? Who led us to believe that old songs could come true? What sort of gold have they sent down the river to reward us? Dragon fire and ruin. From whom should we claim the recompense of our damage and aid for our widows and orphans? The result of his words was that for the moment the people quite forgot their idea of a new king and turned their angry thoughts towards Thorin and his company. Wild and bitter words were shouted from many sides. Fools, said Bard. Why waste words and wrath on those unhappy creatures? Doubtless they perished first in fire before Smaug came to us. This is no time for angry words, master. There is work to do. I serve you still. He strode off to help in the ordering of the camps and in the care of the sick and the wounded. Probably most of them would have perished in the winter that now hurried after autumn, if help had not been to hand. The Elvenking had received news from his own messengers, and already knew much of what had happened. Very great indeed was the commotion among the birds that dwelt on the borders of the desolation of the dragon. Far over Mirkwood tidings spread. Smaug is dead. Even before the Elvenking rode forth, the news had passed west right to the pine woods of the Misty Mountains. Bjorn had heard it in his wooden house, and the goblins were at council in their caves. That will be the last we shall hear of Thorin Oakenshield, I fear, said the king. He would have done better to have remained my guest. It is an ill wind all the same, he added, that blows no one any good. So it was that Bard's messengers found him now marching with many spearmen and bowmen, and crows were gathered thick above him, for they thought that war was awakening again, such as had not been in those parts for a long age. But the king, when he received the prayers of Bard, had pity, for he was the lord of a good and kindly people. So turning his march, he hastened now down the river to the long lake. Only 5 days after the death of the dragon, they came upon the shore and looked upon the ruins of the town. Their welcome was great, and the men and their master were ready to make any bargain for the future in return for the Elvenking's aid. So it was that all the men of arms who were still able, and the most of the Elvenking's array, got ready to march north to the mountain.